Hi, this is Jasden. Um, about a month ago, I think around September 20th, I was invited to the Renewed, Revived, and Refresher Women's Weekend by my cousin, Minister Dana, since it was being hosted by her church. And I was like, you know what? I'm down for it. I think it's dope. Now, they've been trying to get me to that church for the longest, and I've just been putting it off, putting it off. So I was like, this seems like a good event to go to. I had been, just really seeking God on some stuff lately, and I was going through a bit of a rough patch. So I was like, what better way of, finding some encouragement and getting out of this slump than, just being in the presence of God with other believers. So I decided that I was going to go. And even on that day, I was running late. I was like, no, I'm not going to go. I'm just going to turn around. And I was like, no, I'm going to push through that. A wreck happened in front of me. I was texting my cousin and be like, did it start yet? I may not come. And surprisingly, when I got there, it had literally just started. So I just take that as that was a sign for me to be there. I got there and just seeing other people worship and the testimonies that I've heard that night, it just had me full of joy. It was almost as like my spirit just got like the little chest paddles when they need resuscitation. It just did something miraculous. And just sitting there learning, listening, I've learned so much from different people. I've learned from the lady who gave a testimony about her children being taken from her. I've learned that even when things seem impossible is to trust God. Now we hear that all the time, but to hear a story such as that, it just proved how awesome God is and how we should just trust Him in the midst and when things seem impossible or what we see in this natural, how they saying is that there's nothing that they can do. God will always make a way for those who are faithful and are diligent and obedient to His word. Another thing that I learned was, just worship in spirit and in truth, because when you worship in spirit and in truth, there is deliverance tied behind it. And just seeing people cry out to God, I was seeing so many chains broken, and even with myself, just worshiping God. Just now, it's one thing to pray and worship God in your private time, but it was just something about being in the church that night. Just so many people crying out to God, seeing Him, and it was like God's presence was so thick. It was just unbelievable. Anybody that went in there that night, I believe if they were struggling with something or dealing with something, that by the time that service was over, they were delivered. They were absolutely delivered. And I can speak for myself. I went in there. I was having such a rough time because I was dealing with a lot of people bondage. I was dealing with a lot of fear and a lot of negativity against myself and my own thoughts. I was warring against myself on what God is calling me to do and what God is telling me to do. And I just was really down on myself. And just being there, it was like God was tugging and tugging and tugging and tugging. By me giving God that yes, just by going, it was like a small flame that set something off. And Lady Moni, she did like an altar call, and she said that she seen 3 angels and they had 3 mantles, and she was just explaining some things, and she was like, those 3 people, I'm waiting on you. And she was calling, and she was like, if you got to question it, then it is you. And I didn't think anything of it. Like, of course, you're going to think in your head. But I just really just sat there and continued to, pray and meditate. And I started interceding for other people, that for whoever it is, that they should stop being afraid and go. And little did I know that I was speaking to my own spirit. And God, I've never felt such a fire and such a churning inside of me in my life that strong. And like I said, just by me praying that simple prayer, that small yes, it gave God the go ahead, because as soon as I walked up there, I had no choice but to surrender. God only needs a sincere yes from you in total surrenderance, and He will do the miraculous. we hear about these radical changes and we don't see them as much, but to see it happen not only with you but with other people, it was just mind-blowing. By the time I got to the front, a lady had took my baby girl and I was bowed down at the altar. And as much as I tried to get up, I couldn't. It was like I was stuck in that place of worship. I was stuck in that state of surrenderance, and so much was lifted off of me. Oh my God. I have never felt so free ever since then. I have never felt so free, and it feels good. Whom the Son sets free is free indeed. And to be able to live my life and to seek God even more is like whatever ignited that night is like a ever-growing hunger or fire. And I've had like moments where I was constantly seeking God, but it was like when that weight was lifted off of me, it just comes natural. It's just like from that moment, I have been delivered, and I am so thankful that God, you know, placed this idea on the hearts of those that He did to just, it's just like to set people free. To set people free, and for us to be catalysts for other women and other believers to continue to do the same. So for that, I thank you, Lady Moni, for the words that you have spoken into my life, and not only speaking into my life, but explaining to me what you meant. I thank you for worshiping relentlessly and worshiping with your whole heart. Your testimony itself was inspiring, and I thank God for you sharing that with us. I'm thankful for my cousin Minister Dana just inviting me. I can truly say that I was renewed, revived, and refreshed, and I cannot wait to see where God takes us. And I thank you for being the catalyst, not only in my life, but in the life of others. You starting something up in Colorado, girl. You're setting a fire.